Well, we seem to have an abundant supply of water behind the Wickiup Dam, and I think a lot of this was stored there for mainly irrigation. And you hear a lot of discussions now about the trading of water rights. I think this is where we have to look into it. How can we keep the river going year-round? This year seems to be like a good year. They're not going to hold back as much water, but a lot of times you go up the upper Deschutes, in the wintertime you can see mud all over the place. Somebody from the U.S. Forest Service at one of my meetings called it a wild and scenic irrigation ditch. So what can we do? I think one thing we can do, a lot of the golf courses now use a lot of that fresh water, and they take it out of the aquifer, or they take it out of the river indirectly, because they take it out of the aquifer and it doesn't get into the river. We probably could use more recycled water on the golf courses. That would help. I would like to see the fish allowed to come all the way up to the Deschutes River. I don't know how you do that with all the dams, but that's something we should be working on. So there's a lot that can be done to improve our rivers and streams. And one thing is to look to see how we're using irrigation water. We may have to look at water rights in the state and review some of those laws.
Thanks. I think that there are a couple of different things that we can do to make sure that our fisheries and our farmers are not having to compete too much for the flow of water. One thing that we can do is really look at regulation meters on some of those waterways where the irrigation and the streams are competing for that water supply, just to keep track primarily of where that water is going when it's being used for irrigation and ensure that the levels don't drop too low to protect the fisheries. The other thing that I think we can do is really look at success stories. I know East in Pendleton, and they've done some really great work there on reestablishing the salmon runs and some of the rivers back there, and the tribes, Umatilla tribes have done a lot of work in restoring those waterways. And so we can really do a lot to restore the natural habitat of fish so that they can continue to migrate or be reintroduced. And one of the other things that I think we really need to look at is exactly as Conrad said, where is that water being used? Are we using it on golf courses? Are we using it for destination resorts? We need to take a very hard look at where our water use is going, and we need to protect our streams and waterways.
Well, there is no one simple answer when it comes to water, quite frankly. There are a lot of overlays, I suppose, on this issue. One of the things I think that we need to do, and Conrad alluded to it, is in Central Oregon here, we have more water rights than we have water. And what it does is it effectively draws down the river to very dangerous levels. Though not popular and probably will remain unpopular. I first came across the idea of enclosing our canals back in 1996 when my husband ran for Congress. Never even thought about it then, but it was sort of a real revolutionary idea 12 years ago. But I think the more people have looked at it, the more it makes sense. That's one thing. That protects the stream flows right here in Central Oregon. And I know people talk about it being riparian rights, but they're manufactured riparian areas. So that's one thing. Secondly, what we don't do is allow any more water, any water grabs. There was, I believe it was House Bill 3525 last session, which my opponent supported, which would have allowed it would have allowed additional water to be taken from the Columbia River for a very small number of landowners. We can't allow that kind of thing to occur.
Well, thank you, Mike. I think with respect to the Deschutes Basin, we're actually very fortunate in a lot of respects. One, we're a fully adjudicated basin as opposed to, for example, the Klamath Basin. So a lot of those problems, hopefully, we'll be able to avoid. We're also, I think, very fortunate here that we are actually in a watershed that has an abundant supply of watershed, although I would agree with the other folks on the panel that when you look at the middle of the chutes here for an irrigation system, that's kind of hard to imagine. But there are a lot of very smart people that are working in the Deschutes Basin that developed the mitigation rules, that are implementing the mitigation rules, and in fact, on this middle Deschutes stretch, we've seen the flows now go from, I think it was as low as 30 CFS or cubic feet per second up to a more, what they're, I think, holding steady more about 90 CFS. The goal is to get it up to 200. And a lot of that's done through the water bank that's set up under the mitigation rules where they can trade and buy and purchase and dedicate or lease these water rights downstream. So I really support that effort because I think it's a very creative way. It's a willing seller, willing buyer. It's a market-driven kind of process. We are seeing results. Granted, it may not be as fast as we'd like to see, but I think that there's a lot of very smart people that are working on it, and they have the right things in mind, the right objectives in mind, and I support that effort.